Well, welcome to chapter 7 of In Search for Deeper Learning, focused on deeper teaching, rigor, joy, and apprenticeship. And Stephen and I felt differently probably about this chapter. This was my least favorite, but it's funny, but the next chapter was probably my favorite. So it wasn't that I didn't like the shift to focus on teaching, deeper teaching from deeper learning, so on teachers from students. I think the litany of descriptions I didn't need, but I think they set us up nicely for chapter 8, but we differ on that. Stephen has some really good impact on that. So before I talk about a couple takeaways I did get from this chapter, Stephen, what do you see as the biggest takeaway from chapter 7?
Right. And I will say in my defense, like this is my research is all like, qualitative, and I love these like vignettes and the lived experiences of teachers. I mean, I think that it's an interesting, the vignettes are interesting, and they're all different about the math teachers and the science teachers and the English teacher. But I think that there is the thing that emerged to me this time going through the book was this idea of community, which I know is kind of always on my mind when it comes to school. But I think it became a bit more nuanced now. And, instead of thinking like, we need to form communities, or community is sort of always good kind of intrinsically. I have a note here that says community is super important, but which ones? So like, what kind of community do you want to both have as teachers at Real World Academy or at any school? And like, what are its values? How does it connect to larger communities? So like, there was the math teachers who were all about what they called math Twitter. And that was kind of like, they found their community of people who were like kind of nerding out about math, which is great. And it reminds me of JR's, struggles with like, how do you get math to be more alive? But the question is, do you want that to be with like a community of kind of academic-y math people, or do you want it to be with like your actual community, and like bringing the math of like, applied problems, like, I don't know, building a structure for your like neighborhood or for your school, or working with a small business or whatever it is. I don't have the ideas. Anyway, so that's going off in a tangent, but I just think that like being intentional about, what is the value of a community at a school, either in one classroom or the whole school, and then how does it connect to other bigger communities? I think that was a question I walked away with.
Yeah, I don't want to just sprint into chapter 8 since I like it so much more than chapter 7, but that concept of, there is the concept introduced and kind of hammered on in chapter 8 about teachers need to not only know the content, but have experienced the application of that content into what they're asking the students to do, into a work experience or something. And that made me think about community. Like, should Real World Academy from the get-go focus itself on a larger community that involves businesses, enterprises, I don't know, elected officials, whatever, but is it not them sorting it out and then broadening, or is it like, no, we're all in this because it doesn't make sense without this? So I think that's an interesting community question.
Yeah, and I think, we could go down a huge rabbit hole on that about like, I mean, this is me reflecting on my own beliefs about school in general, which is like, should a school be its own community and kind of have its own culture? And, even at the workshop, we were really talking all about the mascot and the colors and all this stuff, which is great. And I understand it. But what if we just open our minds a bit and say, like, actually, maybe the thing that a school does really well, this particular high school, is it's like a hub for the rest of the community. And like, you've got the students working with government and small business, and then, not just local, but like reaching out to like the state or wherever, but then using the school as like a meeting ground, I don't know, but like that could be a completely different way of thinking about the organization.
The high school my wife went to, a lot of the rooms, many of the rooms don't have any walls, or the walls are permanently up, and it's because of the climate she was in. But it really kind of changes the whole concept of what a classroom is. But it was an open air campus, so it wasn't just like our roll up doors inside of a locked building. It was truly, part of, you could look out over the market stalls, on the street over kind of thing. And I think that that's really not probably possible, but really it was interesting when you talk about community. That one thing I did take away from here was I did like the discussion on the scientific part, on the science teachers, the inductive method. I did like the idea of applying, doing it, internship, apprenticeship, failing forward to learn it faster. Because I think as we onboard teachers and parapros, we have to have a culture of failing forward. Like, nobody has the perfect answer on how to do it. And even if you think you do, you're probably plateauing. To continue to get better, you're gonna have to trip and experiment like you want the kids to do. And I thought that to me was a bit of an application I thought could be interesting.
Well, and I think that the symmetry between who's failing and why, it's like really, really important. So if the teachers are invested in the school as like a new kind of school, and if they believe that their failure is actually just kind of, progress along the path to making the school better, that's the message you want the students to have, right? As opposed to this message of like, well, I don't want to make a mistake because I'm just here to get a checkbox and get some points and move on with my day, right? Like it's the same kind of motivational problem. So if you believe that the enterprise that you're doing, like the project of the school, is worthwhile, yeah, you're going to try really hard and take some risks and fail, and and you're going to want the students to feel that way too.
I think I was a good teacher in my first couple of years. And part of it was I was very comfortable telling the kids, I really don't know where this is going. I really don't know how this, it was middle school, and it was the time of middle school where the job was to keep them alive so they could go into high school and learn it all over again. But, we did incredible stuff in my school. And I compliment the school for that. But the idea that like the kids would think, oh no, you really know what's the right answer. I'm like, I truly don't know. Like we're doing this project-based thing and I don't understand the science part of it any better than you do. So let's just keep tripping forward, and the kids really ate it up that their teacher was learning alongside of them. And I think since, especially this first year or two, the teachers won't have artifacts of what the final project should be. They might have ideas or they might have tried something. I think it's kind of exciting to have the teachers not only coaching and facilitating, but part and parcel right there. The coach on a football team is part of the game. Why can't a teacher be part of the project?
And you're going to probably expect what I'm about to say because I brought this up so many times to you. I think it's Dan Lordy. They mention him. It might be in the chapter on deeper learning at the margins with the theater program, about this idea that in a normal school, in a traditional school, you have like this oppositional relationship between the teachers and the students, as opposed to like a football team and the coach, right? Everyone is on the same side. They want to win, right? And everyone is on the same side of a theater production. They want to put on a good show, as opposed to like teacher versus student. Why can we, what does he call it? It's like the great thing, or the one big thing that everyone is focused on, right?
Exactly. And there's a necessary interplay, and it's not fully defined. People have roles, but it flexes as the thing moves forward. So,
well, and if you look at a place like High Tech High, what's genius about their setup is that their flexible one big thing is often like an end of year presentation showcase, right? So it could be anything, but it is a thing, and everyone wants it to succeed. Well, not everybody, but there's a critical mass of people who want it to succeed.
Exactly. Well, before we jump into chapter 8 in our next video, is there anything else you want to bring up in chapter 7 for real world?
I think that this goes a little bit to your thoughts on like the sort of teacher experience of like inquiry learning, and like how do the teachers kind of change, honestly, like and they talk about in this chapter individual teachers in schools where the schools weren't supporting them, right? So the good thing we have is we have a whole school that's going to be a coherent thing. But the thing that we don't have is like, just being honest, all of our teachers are coming from different places and maybe had some experiences that were transformative. And I think the goal in the next year is to really overcome the past, right? What do they call it? The apprenticeship of observation, It's so great, right? But except we've all, even as, I can think of my own education, did not tell me how to be this kind of teacher, right? Exactly. So how do you overcome that?
I know, but how exciting to do it as a group, right? To trip around together. Okay, well, our time is up. And we hope you enjoyed chapter 7 and found something hopeful in it. And we'll see you for the final chapter, chapter 8, in the next video.